People of Reddit, what was the most NSFW event you ever stumbled upon in high school? Walked into a bathroom after school and found a guy and a girl about to go to town. She had her shirt off and skirt up. He had his pants on. I mean, I caught them just before the moment of insertion. I said nothing. I would have left them to it, except all the other bathrooms on campus except this one were always locked shortly before last bell. So I silently walked to the urinal, calmly did my business, properly washed my hands. By the time I went to leave, the girl was hiding in a stall and the guy was waiting by the door. I shrugged at the guy shrugged back. I left and heard the door lock behind me. Not one of us said anything or made a sound during the entire exchange. Edit. For everyone calling it a power move, I appreciate it, but I didn't want to have to pee in the bushes. I went to a boarding school my freshman year of high school, and a few weeks in, I volunteered to help walk our librarian's dog for a while her leg was healing after an injury. So I was walking this huge dog through the woods around campus when he suddenly sniffed the air and just ripped the leash out of my hands and took off into the underbrush. I started chasing after him when I heard screaming and yelling. I thought, oh god, this dog mauled someone and I'm gonna get expelled. Broke through the clearing and there were 5 half-naked upperclassmen trying to put their clothes on and scatter, while this dog was joyously barking and jumping up on and licking them. TLDR, accidentally interrupted an orgy in the woods with my librarian's dog. Went to teacher's room to get some papers that my Portuguese teacher had forgotten, and stumbled at my gym and biology teachers kissing each other really hard over the meeting table. I mean, they didn't even notice me. And oh, it was a Catholic school, and they were both married, by the way. My face when I returned to class without papers must have been priceless. Not me, but a friend of mine was a yearbook photographer. She was rail thin, awkward, geeky high schooler who was asked to photograph a day in the life of the swim team. Our school had football fever, so other sports were always trying to get more than a few mentions in the yearbook, packed with dozens of football shots. So my friend showed up to the swim team practice, and later state tournament. She was asked to join them at a victory party, which was at someone's house with its own pool and hot tub. When she got there, most of the team was already drunk, and not an adult in sight. There was also a lot of girlfriends of the team there, and more than once, my friend was asked to join them naked in the hot tub. Sex was pretty freely flowing, and she strived to constantly get acceptable photos instead of the wanton depravity around her. At one point, some naked girl was chugging while she was in the cowboy position screwing on top of her boyfriend, while everyone else cheered her on. They kept begging my friend to take photos, and she refused in horrified shock. Some of the guys got really handsy with her until she finally picked a time when they were distracted, and she left. She later was crying to her best friend because she felt so stressed out, and it was nothing like what she expected. Sort of like showing a 10-year-old Caligula when they were expecting Toy Story 2. Only one photo made it to the yearbook from that party. A hot tub photo where she had to crop out the beer keg and everybody's body was below the waterline so you couldn't tell they were naked. I was a dildo peddler for a while at school. Girls who wanted sex toys but didn't want to buy them themselves, or couldn't, would pay me the cost and a bit extra for me to get them simply because I had no shame as a 17-year-old. Freshman year of high school. Football team was out practicing. A senior varsity player came into the freshman locker room, cut all of the locks off the lockers, and stole our clothes. Nice enough to take the wallets and phones out, etc., out of our pockets, and leave them in the lockers though. Idiot didn't realize the hallway cameras had him the whole time. Most of us chose not to shower until we got home, and as a team, proceeded to leave in groups in undershirts and boxers, or no shirts and boxers, after getting a call our rides were there. Small town, small school. So ultimately, he was just benched for a few games, suspended for a day or two, and his parents had to buy a bunch of padlocks. There was a kid, we'll call him CB. He was notoriously a bad kid. Always in fights, getting kicked out of school, etc. Anyways, his locker wasn't next to mine, but it was really close. He and I never had problems because I purposefully avoided him. One day another kid, we will call AC, and CB got into an argument. It led to a pushing and shoving match and some shit talking, but got separated really quickly. The next day, AC was walking past our lockers and CB pulled out a literal crowbar out of his locker, ran up behind AC, and hit him in the back of the head so hard that blood hit me in the face. Part of AC's scalp literally half folded over the back of his head and was on the floor. CB started hitting him in the back and back of the head with it. Other students jumped on him and held him down. An ambulance took AC to the hospital. His skull was fractured and he had broken ribs. I had to get checked out too because of the blood exposure. No idea where CB went, but I never saw him again. Catholic high school. Me and my friend walked right into our religious classroom after school and saw the religion teacher making out with a senior girl. They saw us and, welp, scandals and mayhem ensued. Oh, and we were all in the Wizard of Oz together. And the teacher was the director too. Catholic schools are cesspools. This isn't even the worst story I've heard, sadly. I was actually directly involved in this incident. but it fits the bill. I went to a pretty small high school, 80 students per grade, where the minuscule dating pool led to some rather incestuous behavior. My friends and I thought it would be hilarious to make a sex map representing couples, hookups, etc. We put a lot of work into it, making multiple drafts to reach the best possible organization. The thing was even color-coded depending on how far the hookup went. Unfortunately, shit hit the fan when we left a copy laying out and the teacher who found it started a big hullabaloo. My group of about 8 friends wound up getting called into a meeting with a bunch of admins. Thankfully, they decided not to tell our parents about it. But unfortunately, one of my best friend's dads was an administrator and was fully aware of the situation. Never could look him square in the eye again. I only really had a couple situations I can remember, and they weren't that bad. One time, when I was a sophomore, I was in the locker room about to get changed and head home. It was my last class of the day, and one of the other guys had his girlfriend come into the locker room and sit down on the bench and chat with him while he got ready. I didn't really care that much, I'm not too shy, but I remember feeling kind of weird having to change in front of this strange girl. The other was a marching band. We had a large band with over 100 kids. See, when we were getting into our marching band outfits, that was too many kids to filter through the bathrooms or locker rooms. So instead, the band room became this free-for-all changing room for everyone. Guys stripping down into their underwear, girls in bras and panties, and we all got changed. We all got really used to it, and I guess we got comfortable with each other. I didn't think much of it at the time, but looking back on it, I'm so confused how our band directors got away with a bunch of 14 to 18-year-olds all stripping together weekly. Oh god. First thing that comes to mind is the numerous craps and urinals story. One kid climbed to the top of a bathroom stall and crapped all over the side of it, so the crap just fell all on the floor. I saw that one. We had one kid who pulled out his BBC and mollywopped another kid in the face. I was in the class, but I didn't actually see the mollywop happen. Just the aftermath. A couple kids got caught having sex. The day it rained and the girl with big boobs forgot her jacket and wore a white shirt with no bra. She was the sort of girl who rebelled against the system and was low-key proud of it, but also viciously embarrassed any guy who got caught looking. But I think the crown jewel is the time I saw my Spanish teacher's titties. It was a particularly unruly class. No one paid attention and she could never control the class, so no one was really listening. But she went to take off her sweater and, when she did, she pulled up her shirt with it, and also wasn't wearing a bra. Only me and 2 other guys saw it, and still only half the class believes us. Afterwards, she goes, "Chicos, I did not mean to show you my breasts." Oh frick it. No one was listening anyway, but Rob, Shamar, and I were looking at each other in astonishment. The first titties I saw were from my Spanish teacher, LMAO. Saw a kid's fingertip laying on the ground outside the boys' locker room. I was walking into the locker room to get changed for XC practice. The football players were also in there changing. Some 5th graders were leaving the locker room as they had their period gym class. For some reason, a kid put his finger in the small area between the wall and the door like the hinge. It was one of those big swinging doors. As he did that, some big football player slammed the door open and snapped the kid's finger clean off. The kid was running around the locker room in circles screaming and holding his finger. I remember seeing the finger on the floor and thinking it was a band-aid that came off. Long story short, no one got in trouble. The kid's dad was an admin at the school and sued, won, and moved away. The end. Oh god, I've been waiting to tell this story here on Reddit. This was last year. I was a freshman, but there were a few sophomores in my English class. We were doing argumentative essays this week, and we were in the computer lab researching our topics. A few students were down the hall in the library because there weren't enough computers in the computer lab, and so she went to give them the same instruction she had given us. Not long after she left the room, I smelled something odd. At first I thought she was just heating up her lunch a bit early. But then I remembered, there's no microwave in the computer lab. So I turned to my friend beside me to ask her if she smelled something as well. As I turned to the left, I saw one of the sophomore girls with her pants completely removed. I was very taken aback by this, but even more so when I saw that there was a computer mouse halfway in her vagina. I just sat there completely frozen. My friend noticed this and went to see what I was looking at. She said something and everyone else turned around to see the sight. Some people jumped out of their seats, making jokes and stuff. At this point, the teacher walks back in and asks why people are out of their seats. And then she sees why. She screams and the girl leans forward to grab her pants, but had not yet removed the mouse. The pressure applied broke the cheap mouse inside of her. The nurse was called over there. They had to call an ambulance and take her to the hospital. In English class, 10th grade, I was sitting next to this dude, for storytelling purposes, named Chad. Chad was always a little weird, and never really paid attention in class. He preferred to go on gag websites like Google Gravity and whatnot for the entirety of class, occasionally talking to me and showing off what weird crap he'd found. That was all good. Then one day, I looked over just out of curiosity to see what weird crap he might have found that day. First thing I saw was that his screen was going through the standard Windows Update reboot screen. Then I saw his desk bouncing up and down somewhat. I just figured he was bouncing his legs with some ADHD type energy while he was waiting for his computer to finish updating. So I got back to my work. A few minutes later, He apparently started making sounds. I was unaware of this as I was watching YouTube. These sounds were heard by a group of talkative girls sitting a couple seats over. They loudly complained a lot to the teacher. So the teacher walked over and tried talking to Chad. When Chad saw the teacher walking over, he went into panic mode and tried to stealthily hide what he was doing. Naturally, he failed spectacularly and sent his desk forward and actually helped it fall on accident when he tried to save it. So Chad was sitting in his seat, one hand trying to pull his desk back up, while the other was desperately grasping the zipper region of his pants. I only learned what happened after the fact, as I have a spectacular ability to ignore what's going on around me when I watch YouTube. However, I found out that he got suspended for a week. However, Chad went down as a legend around my school as the man who rubbed one out during English. He was highly respected among all boys in the school for the next 2 years, and his reputation spread to the surrounding schools so that when I went to sporting events, the opposing teams would ask me about him. When I was in middle school, someone jerked off and finished on the desk in the middle of class. The story is legend in our area and has been retold so many times that it's hard to figure out what actually happened after he finished. So I'll give you each ending I've heard from different people. 1. He finished and it shot across his desk into the girl's hair in front of him. 2. The teacher heard something happening, went over, saw it on the desk and put her finger in it. 3. He just finished over himself and got kicked out of class. He got suspended and a few years later got caught peeing outside and put on the sex offenders list. The guy is really funny and pretty chill now. He has a lot of stories about him and they're all amazing. Nothing too bad. But once someone took a dump so unbelievably large and clogged the toilet that it became a sensation. There was literally a line outside the toilet of people wanting to see and have their photo taken with this gargantuan crap. This thing was the size of a small child. Think small fire extinguisher. Eventually, we figured out who gave birth to this monstrosity. Turns out, he has IBS and only craps every 1 to 2 weeks. Edit. Oh yeah, there was also this one time a girl in year 7, she was 12, gave a hand job to a 15-year-old in the bathroom. Edit 2. For people wondering, this happened in Australia, and it was like 5 years ago, so I don't know anyone who'd still have the photo of this turdzilla. I got a couple good ones for you, Reddit. Guy eats his girlfriend out in an empty class and she has her period all over him, leaving his shirt stained and a very awkward visit to the principal's office. In our school, we have a catwalk above our auditorium that can't be seen from the seats or the stage, and during an assembly, a couple decided to have sex up there. Well, when the guy came, he pulled out and accidentally shot over the railing all over the first 3 rows of students. Lastly, my personal favorite. This gay couple decided to have sex in the nurse's office and one had diarrhea, and the rest is like the diner scene from Bad Grandpa. Grew up in a really small town, where you knew everyone in your grade. 2nd grade, a kid pooped on the seat of the toilet. Everyone lost their minds and set off on an investigation led by a pissed off school janitor. Some kid ended up being blamed, and they kicked him out of the school? I think. Because he was blamed, he didn't ever come back. But I did it. I pooped on the seat. No one ever knew. At my high school, the boys' and girls' bathrooms were right next to each other. The bathrooms themselves were different as you'd walk into either the men's restroom or the women's restroom. But in one stall, they were separated by a very thin wall. Like the kind that separates 2 stalls. So I go into the end stall one time to take a crap. I look around and see this large sticker on the wall that's the same color as the wall. I decided to remove the sticker since it seemed out of place, and I see this hole that allows you to see into the girls' stall next door. Immediately, I covered it up. I remembered thinking, we actually have a goddamn glory hole at this school. Apparently, the rest of the school knew about it. My friend said it was a way to have sex with their girlfriends during lunch break. The janitor never found out about it because of the sticker. As far as I know, it's still there. TLDR, found a glory hole leading to the girls' bathroom. I was in music class and I played the saxophone. I was just saxing away and I hear someone yell. The girl that screamed was sitting next to a kid who played the tuba. I put down my sax and turn around, and there is a kid just frozen still. He's kind of known for being a weird guy, but what I saw next was next level weird. He was holding the mouthpiece of the tuba towards his crotch. This kid put his dick in a tuba. He wasn't paid to do it. He wasn't dared to do it. He put his penis in a tuba for free and for his own pleasure. Make sure to leave your story in the comments, and most importantly, have a nice day or night. We don't discriminate.